Hello. All right. This studio is a little different than some of the other ones that we've done. This time we gave you some code and asked you to fix it. So we're not asking you to write code, we're asking you to fix the busted code that we gave you. So a little bit of a different approach to the studio today. We've got some code where Sherlock Holmes has people knocking on his door, and there's only a couple people that he's interested in actually letting in. Anybody else he wants to send away. And so the idea is that we've got a function that's going to accept a list of guests, and if the guests are all acceptable, then we'll let them in, and if they aren't, then we're going to tell them to go away. It sounds very simple. There's a lot of ways to screw it up, as I'm sure you might have noticed as you're working through, this problem. There's a lot of ways to screw it up, including this way. This is one way to screw it up, the way we started you with. This way it screws it up. So, I mean, we can test that by just running it. It says, oh, it doesn't even work. Bad input on line 1. Does anybody know what that's about? I missed the colon. That's something I do all the time. And so let's just try to get this thing to run first, right? Forget about whether it runs correctly or not. Let's just try to get it to run, period. Now it's unhappy about line 3. What's wrong with line 3? I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Single equals instead of double equals. There we go. All right. We'll run it again. Bad input on line 5. All right, line 5 is the else. What's the problem here? Another colon. Okay. Eventually it'll run, right? All right. Name error. Name press is not defined on line 2. Should be guests. How did you figure that out? Because they came in from the input, right?
Right.
Guests. All right, is it going to run yet? Let's see. All right, it finally ran, but it did not run properly. So first thing we did, we solved a lot of syntax errors. Then we had one runtime error, undefined variable, didn't know what we were talking about. And now we're in the last category of errors, the fun ones. The semantic errors, right? It runs, it just doesn't run properly. So we covered the whole gamut of errors. And so this is going to be the hard part. Any ideas as to what we're missing now? I like how they snuck a semicolon in here. It doesn't actually need to be there. It's not hurting anything. Semicolons don't do anything. Yeah. Should be an or. Okay. So we're asking if the guest is Dr. Watson and Inspector Lestrade. That implies that they can be both at once, which is not possible, right? I cannot be two things at the same time. It's not possible. It's not possible. So and is incorrect here. Or is the right choice. And so if we run this now, we see, okay, now we're just letting everybody in. And somebody actually just asked me about this very specific scenario. Does anybody know what's happening here? Like, I know how to fix it, but I'm not actually interested in that yet. I'm more interested in what the heck is going on, right? Why is it letting everybody in? Does anybody know? Yeah.
Inspector Lestrade is being checked, so it's just kind of defaulting on making it true.
Okay.
True statement.
It is. That's exactly right. It's counting this as true. It's counting this as true, and you might be thinking to yourself, that makes absolutely no sense. I would be inclined to agree with you. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But there's a rule for this, right? So you look at a string, and I say, is that string true or false? And you look at me, and you're like, what the heck are you talking about? But there's actually a way to answer that question. In most languages, and I believe this includes Python, 0. If I look at something and it is 0, that is false. If it is anything else, literally anything else, it is true. So is Inspector Lestrade 0? Nope. It's true. Right? It's true. And so we're using an or statement. You asked me to switch this to or, which I agree with. I'm saying or true. Does it matter what this is? Because I say or true, the first half literally could be anything. Does not matter. It's going to be true every single time, and it's going to let everybody in. Does that make sense? We wandered into some strange territory there. Hopefully it makes sense what happened. How do we fix it? I know somebody out there knows how we fix it. Guessed equals. There we go. Guessed equals. Computers are not going to be able to read your mind. You have to be very explicit. If I'm checking a variable against a value and I want to check it against multiple values, I have to spell it out. Variable equals another value. It's not smart enough to know that you want this to be checked against the first variable. Question?
Don't you also need the period from doctor because it's not going to be an exam?
Oh, wow. Typo, huh? Dr. Watson. It does work without it? Let's see. Go away, go away, go away, enter. Works without the period. Okay.
Because of the or.
Doesn't make any sense. I think it does. I think it does. Does anybody know why that's happening? We've misspelled this. This is not spelled correctly, but it's still working. It's still saying enter. It's giving us the right answer. Why? I'm sorry? Inspector Lestrade comes first. So if we think about this, we could even show code lens and show what happens, right? This is a good use of the debugger. Here's code lens. I want to get down to Inspector Lestrade. So we need to jump ahead a bit. Mycroft. Where are we at? One more. Irene Adler. All right, is this the right one? Inspector Lestrade. All right, here we go. Which line are we on? Let's scroll up and see. Okay. So I'm going to move forward line by lines. Our list has Inspector Lestrade and Dr. Watson in it, and the loop is saying we're going to go through it, right? And now if I step forward one more line, it's going to check. It's going to say, hey, is this value equal to Dr. Watson or Inspector Lestrade? And the answer to that question is yes, it is. It is equal to Inspector Lestrade.
So it never evaluates it.
It's evaluated Inspector Lestrade, and our code says, yes, that's the guy. He's okay. And so what does our code say to do next? I hit the forward button, and it says, return enter. Well, wait a second. Wait a second. We weren't done. We weren't finished. There were more things in that list that we needed to check, right? There were more values that we needed to check. But we said, oh, hey, we found a guy, and we like him. We're done. Does that make sense? What the problem is? Hopefully. So how do we fix it? When do we know that it's okay to open the door? At what point do we know? It's everybody on the list has to get the thumbs up. Everybody on the list has to get the thumbs up. So I have to check every single value on the list and make sure it works. When do I know that that's happened? Yeah.
So you can move things around.
Yeah. I think we need to move some things around. Like what?
So, like, I wanted to check and see if it worked, so I actually took out I moved on the list, I moved where the friends was.
I'm sorry?
And then the print statement, or are you talking, if you take out the Inspector Lestrade, since you know it works.
But it doesn't, though. My claim is that it doesn't work. This has not succeeded. It gave us the right answer, but it's not. Let me show you another reason why this doesn't work. If I add another person on here, like myself, because I'm vain like that, if I pass this list in, should he open the door or not? No, because I'm not on the approved list. But if I run the program, what happens? Enter. Why?
Because it's doing an or.
It's not
And you
evaluated.
found at least one thing that's true.
I check the first element on the list and say, is that Dr. Watson or Inspector Lestrade? And the answer is, yes, it is. And so I say, all right, we're done. Enter. But we're not done. We're not done. There were more values on the list that we needed to check, right? We were not finished. Return says, we are done. but we were not done. So how do I fix it? Yeah. The guest can't be anybody else, so we could add a condition here. Okay. Like this? Okay, and then what? Okay? How do I say that, though? That's a tricky thing to say, isn't it? That's a tricky thing to say, isn't it? Anything else? I know that's not what you meant, but like, it's a valiant effort, but I don't know how to say that. When do I know that it's safe to open the door, right? After I've checked everything on the list. When do I know that I've checked everything on the list? Where in the code have I checked everything on the list?
When you evaluate each one separately.
Where specifically in the code do I know I've checked everything on the list? Which part of the code is responsible for moving us through the list? The for loop. So I know that I've checked everything on the list when the for loop is over, right? When the for loop has finished. I cannot stop here. There's more work to do. I need to move this outside of the loop. It has to be outside of the loop. It has to be after the loop is over. Right? It has to be. So I can't do this here. I can't do that here. So what? Now I'm just blowing everything up, right? Now we're going way off the beaten path. So how do we fix this? I still have this. Is this okay to be inside the loop? It is. Think about why. If I find one person who I don't like, do I have to check the rest of the list? No, I'm done. I am finished. Right? So this condition works. This works fine. So how am I going to reconcile that with my program? What do I need to do? Why not flip them?
Well, then you gotta say not equal.
Check to see if
Oh, I like this. I like this. Move that up here. Get rid of the else entirely. And then what did you say? You said not equal? So now we're checking for the opposite condition, right? If the value is not the people that we like, I'm going to say, nope, you're out of here. We're done. And that's okay, because I don't need to check the rest of the list. If you are somebody that I like, what am I going to do? Nothing for now, because I want to make sure that the people behind you are also okay. And then once I verify that that's true, that everybody on the list is okay, then, and only then, will I open the door. Let's try this and see if it works. Uh-oh.
Yep, because you're still in the list.
Uh-oh. So what happened? Let's reason about this. It actually worked for these, right? It worked for the first four. It didn't work for the last one. So let's think about what happens. I start with Inspector Lestrade. I'm saying, guest, Inspector Lestrade does not equal Dr. Watson. Is that true or false? That's true. So true or anything else is going to be true, which means I'm going to say go away. I need to switch it back to an and. You guys are rolling your eyes at me like, we just switched that to an or. And you're right, we did. But we also, it's very common. This used to be equals. We switched it to not equals. It's very common to have to switch your ors and ands when you do that as well. When you make it say not equals. Let's try it one more time. Uh-oh, still not there. Oh, I still don't have the period. Thank you. Oh, my name's still in there. I'm not allowed. All right. There we go. That's it. This is the answer. This is the solution. Think about this. So I've actually talked about this before, just to kind of wrap up, because I feel like there's still probably a little confusion out there. Using return statements in for loops is tricky. You can do it. We're doing it. We're doing it right now. And if I'm going to use a return statement in a for loop, I believe I've already said this, it's going to happen inside of an if statement. But the problem here was that I had an if statement with a return, and I also had an else with a return. So no matter what happened with that if statement, my loop was going to get cut short. That was the problem that we ran into. Hopefully that makes sense. It's okay to cut the loop short part of the time, but there has to be another way for me to get all the way through that loop. Right? There has to be some other path that I can take that's going to let me get all the way through that loop. And if I have an else statement and an if statement with returns, it's just not possible. It's not possible to happen. So getting rid of that else statement was very critical in solving this problem. That was a tricky one, especially at the end there. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good week, and I'll see you back here on Thursday.